Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today my fishing reel that we'll be working on is a Lews low profile bait caster. This is the Lews Speed Spool. It is a 6.4 to 1 fishing reel. This one happens to be lined with 6-pound test. And well, it's just in for a basic service. There's a little bit of a crankiness going on to it. Probably needs some lubrication and the like. And well, we're going to do that. We're going to show you how this reel comes apart, how it gets serviced, and, well, more importantly, how to do it yourself. Well, if you like those kinds of videos, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. If you do subscribe to my channel, please use that notification button. That's going to let you know when I'm posting the videos, and, well, you can make a determination as to whether that's a video you would like to learn more about. I work on all kinds of fishing reels. Today it's a low-profile freshwater bait caster. Tomorrow it might be a big deep-sea trolling reel. It might be a spinning reel. We never know. That's kind of the fun of it. And, well, what you're seeing here are the reels that come into my shop for service. You're sort of looking over my shoulder and how to service and repair them. And hopefully one of these is the one that you have, and you'll learn how to do it yourself. This channel is dedicated to education and providing you with the information you need to keep your fishing tackle running. Okay, well, we've just taken off the handle, which is held on by a nut cap and a retention ring and screw. We're going to remove the star adjuster now, and we're breaking down the reel. We're going to take the reel completely apart, so you'll see everything that goes on with this reel. Next up was a little washer that goes between the star adjuster and the handle, and then this is the star adjuster. Well, when we take these things off, we like to take pictures. That's a good way for us to remember the sequence that those pictures were in, and well, it's always an aid when it comes to the end of this, and you got to go and do a rebuild, and maybe you've forgotten which pieces go where. There's a click ratchet that goes next. There's 2 tension washers behind that are smaller. They are not flat washers, they are concave or convex. Then there are 2 larger ones, same pattern. They're got a belly on them, and those typically go belly to belly, if you will. So I'm going to just take those and put those in my parts tray. And I recommend that, well, when you do these things, you have a system to deal with the parts that you take off. I use a parts tray. It's a fast food container, and that parts tray, well, for the most part, it's I just use the corners in that to separate the sub-assemblies. That keeps me kind of in check in terms of where they've come from. Next, I think I want to remove the side plate. There's a little lever that pulls out here, and once you pull out on that, and hold it out and then pull it up, that will release your side plate. You should be able to remove it. There's a bearing in that side plate. I'm going to go ahead and oil that. You're going to notice that there's a click ring here on the back end of this, that little metal ring. And that's for a mag assembly to act as a brake here. I'm going to remove the spool now. And I recommend when you change or service your reel, you change the line. Now you know, because it's your reel, when the last time it was that the line was replaced. I don't. And I don't take a chance that the line may be old, and well, when I go fishing with the reel that's got line on it, I want to take that off. If I've acquired it, let's say used from a flea market or a garage sale or something, I never trust the line. I always replace it. I'm going to do the same thing here. We're going to oil that bearing on this side. Again, the bearing for this side is in the case. Well, this is the case side now, and you're going to notice there's a little screw here and a little screw, well, I guess this screw right here is going to hold this bezel on, and we're going to need to remove that in order to service the line guide assembly. So let's go grab a micro screwdriver. Let's see if we can do it with one here. There's small Phillips head screws. And we'll take this one out first. Be very careful when you take these small screws out. Another reason why it's good to have that as a plate there. And, well, I'm not quite sure if this is the next step. Well, let's take this one out. It's quite possible I'm going to need to remove the entire plate before I can get to this bezel coming off. Yeah, let's go ahead and do the rest of the side plate. That is a side plate screw. I was assuming it's a multi-purpose screw that holds that, but chances are there's another screw under the case. When you get to a situation like that, do not force anything. When you take these off, store them. I just noticed that this one is a longer screw. So it looks like we have 2 short screws and 2 long screws. And then there's 1 screw in the back here. So this is one of those reels. It's relatively easy to service. All 3 of these screws are different. Well, God bless somebody. All right, 1 more, and that's different too. So we have 4 different side plate screws here. And you want to note where each one of those goes. This one has a little bit of a retention water drop piece. So what I've done is I've lined them up accordingly. This one had a silver head on it. This one was the medium. This was Papa Bear, the long one. This is Baby Bear, the short one. Okay, now we should be able to remove the side plate. I'm going to stand that up. This is where you want to be careful as you remove. We have a bearing underneath. We have 2 bearings underneath. And, well, we can go ahead and just oil those right away. The case inside is clean. I think what we heard before is, if anything, it's because it, well, needs a little love and attention, which usually means oil and grease. We have a loose shaft here. This seems to be common on a lot of these reels, and that's something that over time will wear. You can see all the movement in that, but for now, we're going to just let that go. There is no instant anti-reverse on this. This anti-reverse is a traditional dog anti-reverse, and we'll show you that in a moment. First thing I want to do is take the 2 yoke springs off, because they have a tendency to wander and shoot, and well, that becomes a problem when it's time for reassembly. So those 2 are off, and let's take the main gear assembly off now. We have a spacer, and then we have a series of drag washers underneath that. Here is our anti-reverse system. It's a double dog system. These are finger jointed dogs. When you are cranking in the one direction, everything works fine, and then as you pull back, you'll see they hook in. Well, I'm going to remove those 2 dogs. They just simply lift up. This is what's meant by a finger. You have 2 tongs or tags or whatever on those, and they go on each side of this click ratchet. Take the click ratchet off next. This one seems to be a little bit stuck here. Let's see if we can't pry this up and out. Well, that one I believe was put on incorrectly. Yeah, that was put on incorrectly. Somehow that got jammed up, but we've just unjammed that. Okay, I'm going to put that in our case. Now we'll come up and we will remove the pinion gear and the yoke. Put that in the case. This part does not need to be removed, and here's another issue I usually have with these. These are plastic parts. This is the part that will serve when you click down on your button. That's going to drop down and into the click ratchet. The click ratchet is going to pop it up. Like that. All you need to do on this is oil it. If it is broken, there's 2 screws that will remove this assembly and 2 springs that hold that in place. I'll just kind of show that close to you in case maybe you've taken that apart. Also in this one, you can remove this sub-assembly here, but again, we just got a lot of play, and that's unfortunate. All right, we did all of that to get to the bezel here to service the line guide. So before I go to service the rest of this reel, I'm going to take that screw out, put there with the other one that I've removed. Now we can pull that bezel off, and we can take a moment here to service the pawl and the line guide. This is a plastic cap. You need to be very careful with the plastic caps. If you over tighten them, generally they can break. And usually if you tap, just like I did there, your pawl is going to come out. And you need to check on the pawl that the points are nice and tight and not worn, and that the shoulders, and you can see here that the shoulders, if they have accumulated grease, are cleaned. If you don't, it's not going to track right, and eventually it will slow down. Check the points, they're equal. Check the shoulders, they're clean. There is a little washer, it's sitting right at my desk here, that's going to go on the reinstall. Okay, we're going to just oil our worm gear. There's nothing on that worm gear, it's clean. If it wasn't clean, you can use some penetrating oil on there, and then once you put the penetrating oil on, take a towel to wipe it off. I'm going to just turn my drive here until that pawl seats. You'll know it seats when it pulls down and in. That's correct now. Your little washer goes on top of that. Sits in the hole. Just like that. And then we can put our plastic cover back on. Again, be very careful. Don't over tighten that, because if you do, it'll break. I've pretty much tightened that all by hand. Now we can take the bezel and put the bezel back on. Just like that. And then we'll go to my parts tray and get those two little screws, and we'll reattach that bezel. Well, while I'm doing that, I want to encourage you to ask questions. If you have questions about this reel or any reel, leave it in the comments section. I do try to answer those questions on a daily basis. And who knows, maybe you just want to know a little bit more information about the reel. Maybe you want to know a little bit more about how it's used, what conditions, or what the advantages are of a 6.0 or 6.4 gear ratio versus a higher speed 8.0 type of a reel. And well, I'll try to answer those questions for you. All right, kind of reverse the way that you put them back in based on the way you took it out. You have a lot of old grease and dirt and debris on the yoke. We want to take care of that. I'm going to use a paper towel to collect that. I'm going to use a cotton swab to pretty much do the cleaning of it. If it gets kind of tight, and this is kind of worn on there, this may have been a little bit of what I was hearing when I was doing this as well. I'm going to use a penetrating oil. In this case, I'm using WD-40. I'm just going to use that and a little pick to kind of do some scraping. The penetrating oil is going to loosen it up. You can see the chunks coming off. And then the cotton swab will just take care of the rest of it. Just be careful. Again, this is all plastic. And while plastic, it has its place, but usually the place that it has is in saving a couple of pennies in the manufacture of the reel. And, well, it wears, and under certain conditions, it's just not as strong as metal and can snap, can wear down. I'm generally not a fan of plastic parts in fishing reels, but you know, that's kind of the way that these things have evolved. A lot of the reels today are made that way. I just opened up a Ambassador made in China, a lot of plastic parts inside, and I just can't see that down the road these things are going to be around. Okay, done a pretty good job. All of that was sitting on the yoke, so we wanted to take care of that. Now we want to examine the pinion gear. And the best thing to do with the pinion gear is try to get the old grease out. I'm using a bristle brush. You can use a toothbrush or one of these. This is a dollar store variety kind of a brush. You get them in those packs that have the multi-use. All right, well, we've separated those. How do we know which goes where? Find the side that has the ramps on it. That's going to face the spool or face inward. Find the side that has the slots on the pinion gear, that's also going to face inward. That's going to face inward because those slots are going to grab the bar on the spool, and that's what's going to turn the spool. What bar am I referring to? That bar right there. There's a crossbar, and this is how it's going to sit on the reel, just like that, and that's going to enable you to turn it. And when you go to cast, it pulls it off of there to allow the free spool. All right, well, that has to face in. The ramps have to face in. And now we can take that and reinstall that back onto the reel. Just like that. Let's not forget those springs. If there's one thing I do in a service that's pretty consistent is forget those springs. All right, click ratchet goes next. And we want to install that with these anti-reverse dogs. Now I like to just pinch those. Sometimes they separate a little bit. Just pinch them and you'll be able to put them back together again. Again, I don't know why this kind of got stuck partially, but make sure when you put it on that the rectangle matches the rectangle on the post. Okay. This one seems to go in this way. And you bring it in, then you use that. You use the ratchet to separate the tongs. One up. Second one up. And we are set with that. So that's how your dogs go in terms of being installed. These have Carbon Tex washers in them, so you don't need to do anything with Carbon Tex washers. That to me makes sense in this reel. When I look at the reels, I'm looking at this, seeing it's plastic. It's probably a little bit lower end reel, price-wise. The assumption, most likely, is that the reel is not going to be serviced, that it's going to break at some point and somebody's going to throw it away and go get another one. It's a shame, but that seems to be the way that manufacturers design reels today. And I was just talking to a rep for a major fishing reel company, and he said, you know, a lot of these today don't get serviced. And, well, if they don't get serviced, I guess lessons learned, right? So by the time you get done with the postage, the handling, the service fees, and all the other stuff, well, it's pretty much worth the cost of a new one. All right, first washer is in. There's 3 fabric washers. There's 3 metal washers. We have a flat washer with a rectangle. We have a round washer, round inner circle with 2 prongs. That's called an eared washer. We have the flat washer with the bell housing. So make sure that you differentiate them as you go to put them in. First one on is the flat washer, rectangular. These are Carbon Tex. Again, you don't grease or oil a Carbon Tex washer because, well, it can't absorb it. So if it can't absorb it, then it makes no sense to use that grease or oil. And the purpose of the grease and oil is to keep them from tearing. Well, that's usually used on felt washers or the like. And, well, it doesn't really have that same use characteristics that you would have with the others. Okay, that's back together. I'm going to just take a pause for a moment. We'll be right back. Okay, took a moment. I just had some stuff that was kind of gritty in my glove. I wanted to change that off. So we have our spacer on the main gear. We've installed the yoke and the pinion gears. Next up is the part that I normally forget, which is these 2 little yoke springs. Also want to take a moment, just put a little bit of oil onto the slide mechanism for the free spool trip. And now we can take our case. Our case also has another spacer bearing on that, our sleeve on that bearing. And go to install the case, find the hole for that override, or the case release if you will. Bring the whole assembly in and align them, making sure that you have a nice, even seam for that. All right, kind of crazy that 4 different screws here. The first one is a rough thread, and that's going to go into that little opening there. I got lucky I didn't push it out, but that's a little opening. It's a weep hole. All right, now we got 3 different screws. It's kind of weird, right? I'll call that the baby bear screw, the shortest of them. Goes over on to the front side here. This is where pictures help. Don't trust your memory. You start throwing screws into a box, and then the next thing you know, you're looking at them and saying, my gosh, one's small, one's medium, one's large. Where do they all go? Well, that's the small one. The large one, the longer one, goes in here. The daddy bear, papa bear. And then I guess we got the mama bear. The medium one goes here. Oh, that was fun. Again, I don't understand the efficiencies of manufacturing, why you use 4 different screws on the assembly of that reel. All right, give it a turn. Make sure it's turning nice and easy. It is. Okay, next up then we can put the back post assemblies on here. The first 2 are the larger washers. Again, they're beveled. They have a curve to them. I have the belly facing up on the first, down on the second. These are adjustable. You could put them in just about any way, but I find the factory setting is usually belly to belly. So we'll do the same thing with the smaller washers. First one goes up, second one goes down. And we have that click ratchet. It's going to make the noise when you do the adjustment on your star adjuster. And your star adjuster will have a little spring underneath here, and that's what's going to be causing the click. Okay, we can put the star adjuster on now. That's the click that you get now. If you remember now, we have a small washer that goes between the star adjuster and the handle. Just like that. And our handle. Then the nut cap. This is a 10mm nut cap. Start these by hand. You need to make sure that they go on square. If you're having any issue whatsoever in terms of getting this thing seated properly, stop and reset. Okay. Generally, if that point is facing that screw hole for the tie down, you will align it with this hold fast clip, and this one is applying to the generally. It works that way. And now our screw to hold the hold down together. What we need to do now is put that spool in. Put the side cap on, and we should be good to go. All right, there's our retention ring. We've oiled the bearing on the spool. We'll just put a little bit of grease onto the shafts, both sides. When you go to reinstall, I see that I have some line hanging out here. When you go to reinstall, make sure that that line does not get trapped in either side of the spool and the frame. If it does, it won't turn. We've oiled the bearing. That was the first thing we did here. Remember, this came in from the top, so let's go reset this. Bring it in, bring it down, click it, make sure that your retention ring is in. And well, for the most part, this reel has been serviced. Let's give it a go and see what happens. It's turning tight. That's not unusual because we've changed some of the settings. Just back your adjuster off a little bit. That will free that up. Let's test to make sure our free spool works. Turns free and easy. Come on back and crank it, and the reel is completed. So that's how you do that. That's your Lews speed spool. It's a BB1h, And, well, it's a nice reel overall. Again, if there are some issues here, the issues are probably with the use of plastic inside, and you just need to be aware of that if you're considering purchasing it, that the plastic inside is not as durable as some of the reels that contain the metal pieces and parts. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. To our first responders, our police, fire, rescue, EMT, all of our safety folks, thank you for your work day in and day out and commitment to public safety. To everyone, please take the time, service your reels, do it yourself. You not only save money, but in some cases, it's the only way that those reels are going to get serviced. And, well, have a fun day on the water and a great day fishing. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thanks for watching.